thank you for agreeing to interview with us, sir.
Yeah, no worries.
Now, you and I have interviewed before about the EU in last summer, but with Keir Starmer kind of officially gone past 1 year, do you think that anything has changed positively or negatively since the summer, essentially?
I mean, if you asked me that just a month ago, I might have said absolutely not. The bit that's a little bit different now is the Wes Streeting, who of course is not Keir Starmer, but nevertheless
A member of the Labour Party.
a member of the Labour Party, senior member of the Labour Party. I mean,
Exactly.
head of the health bit.
Exactly.
Has did at the conference say we protested the conference as well, the Labour conference. But he did say that we could now talk about Brexit. Now, whilst that sounds really quite mild, because I think he is seen as quite possibly a future leader.
Yes, along with Andy Burnham as well.
Yeah, both in the frame, of course, Andy Burnham has also talked very much about how Brexit is part of the problem. He's been very straight about that as well.
Exactly.
So there's this next generation. We don't know who's going to take over from Starmer, but it's quite likely one of those two guys.
Exactly.
Or possibly a couple of other people. But the thing is that it's become far more, well, it's become permissible to talk about Brexit, because one of the things we were always saying is, can we just talk about it, please? They're saying we can talk about it. There's a recognition that it is something that must be talked about. So, okay, you might say that isn't groundbreaking, that isn't going to shake the world or anything, but it is progress.
Yes. And so, I assume we know your stance, but why do you think we need to rejoin the EU?
Why are you suggesting that possibly some of those halfway house things like just the customs union or the single market would be sufficient?
It's our opinion here at the moment, but we have.
No, it's just the way they framed the question.
Yes.
No, I think that we're going to end up. They're talking already about making Brexit work, and there's a certain rapprochement on certain levels. But all of that does is it starts reintegrating and rebuilding some of the stuff that is part of the customs union, some of the stuff that is part of the single market, some of that stuff. And there's a trajectory there, so you end up eventually joining the customs union, the single market, or something. But once you get to that point, you're in a rather invidious position there, because you're invested in all those rules, and you are seeing benefits from it. Don't get me wrong. It's good, but you don't have any say in the setting of those rules. So really, you do need to take the next step and just join, so that you're at that table making those rules as well as obeying them.
Okay.
But also, what we've got with Russia, and I do think that
it's a very impending situation.
With Russia.
Yes.
You'll be aware of Nathan Gill?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically we've had it in a court of law now that at least one member of Reform, and of course just the one, one member of the Reform has been found guilty of taking bribes from Russia to promote Putin's interests. Yeah. And it's a fact, and it's happened.
Yeah.
Now, Nigel Farage would have you believe, it was him. We don't do that. It was that one.
Yes, despite him coming out with
Putin is his most admired politician.
very sympathetic to Putin.
And sympathetic to a load of other autocrats who fall into the same category, like Trump and Orban.
So it rather stretches credulity that Farage wasn't quite happy to accept I don't know what he accepted. I'm going to be very careful what I say. You're going to put this up, right? But so I'm going to be careful what I say. But let's just face it, we've all got a great set of suspicions there, which now that first domino, Nathan Gill, is gone, we're wondering what'll happen next. Now this is important because I do believe that Brexit was a Russian-prompted effort to soften up Europe, preparatory to invasion, which will happen of the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So it's not unconnected. It is in fact very intimately connected, and so we have to rejoin, because part of our defending ourselves from the interests of Putin and what he wants to do with Russia, it is better done as a member of the EU. Now, I'm not saying it's necessarily that you have to, but I do think it's best. But also this, I don't speak for everyone here, right? This is me. Although there are a couple that will agree with me, but I am not happy that we merely rejoin the EU. I want us to rejoin the EU, but I want to see certain people on trial for what happened.
Are we able to get names of the people who you feel?
Oh yeah, no, I think Michael Gove should go on trial.
Okay.
Boris Johnson should go on trial. The thing about Nigel Farage is, because of my strategy for putting people on trial is very much about abuse of office, Nigel Farage wasn't in any office as such when he was really pushing the Brexit vote. Of course, he had his agenda as an MEP and all that sort of thing, but That was quite honest, quite straightforward in terms of we always knew what he was about, and it wasn't a UK office.
Yes.
Or well, it was because he was an MEP for the UK. But the thing is, it was it's confusing. I'd be quite happy to see him on trial. All I'm saying is I'm not sure that can be traced. However, with Gove and Johnson, it's much more straightforward. Much more straightforward. And the reason that we need these people to go on trial is because we've had this posh boy elite who've been having a great old lark. It's all been terribly good fun. Yeah. They need to face some consequences, because if they don't face consequences, we're just going to keep doing things like this. There'll be something else that they get a bee in their bonnet about, and they screw the country over by mobilizing two things. Number one, there's an awful lot of ignorance in this country. I am a big critic of what's happened to our education system. But number two, the nature of our constitution. So you're possibly aware that we've had issues with the police taking our speakers and all that sort of thing, which goes to court and we win. I don't know if you know that, we won. And the reason we could win is because, as I always said to the guys, we're going to win this on the constitutional grounds of we have a right to protest. That's exactly what happened. But because we don't have a codified constitution like they have in America, we had to bring it to a court, and the court had to make their judgment. So not just we, you, everyone in this country is in this terribly vulnerable position whereby the authorities can try just about anything on. And yes, if you take them to court, the court will probably come down on your side if they're out of line, fine. Yeah. But you have to go through that palaver. Okay. And you don't have to do that in other countries, at least not to the same degree. In other countries, America being the classic one, they're very keen on their constitution over there. There's a lot you can say about America, but nevertheless they do have a codified constitution and they do all know what it is. And if you tried something like that, certain things can go as far as court. Very often it's like the lawyer just goes article whatever, and the police go, all the authorities go, yeah, fine. And we need a bit of that. We need the protection of a proper constitution, because you know how they want to bring in this digital ID card?
Yes. I'm
not in principle against ID cards, because there's lots of people who've said lots of other parts of the world have ID cards, lots of parts of Europe have ID cards, but you know what else those parts of Europe have? They have a codified constitution. So to have ID cards in the context of a codified constitution, that's one thing. You can make that work. You have to draw it up properly, you have to do it properly, but that could be made to work. To have ID cards when you don't even have a codified constitution and you are entirely vulnerable to the whims of the executive anyway, that is a terrible position. People who go on about ID cards and how they're not a bad thing, I can't think of another country that has that position whereby you would have to justify yourself to the state, but you don't have any constitutional protections. Or rather, we do have constitutional protections, but as I said, you have to bring them to court for every little thing in order to get them supported.
Yeah. And our final question, if you... Oh yes, what's your thoughts on Shahaya Mahmood? I've obviously butchered her name there, trying to scrap the right to protest.
Authoritarian as hell. And that thing that she sort of like said about repeated, how did she phrase it? Repeated protests, something like that. Yeah. But of course, we answer that description perfectly. We are regular. Because
I've come to interview a couple of times beforehand with this about the EU.
Yes.
Well, her idea that regular, repeated protests should be subject to extra oversight and rules and everything. Well, do you know what? If it comes to it, that goes to the court. I will be able to bugger that one up as well, because that one won't survive in court, except we'd have to go through that palaver again. I do have every confidence it would come down with being thrown out of court, but it took us a year to do it with us lot, and they did various little bits of shenanigans in order to make it longer, because the thing is, until that judgment is actually made, they can continue doing what they're doing. And we nearly lost getting the judgment done on the last hearing anyway, because they were doing various things. So they could keep us in a state of limbo, not just us, the country at large, with this protest thing, whereby it never gets to that final decision by the court, and until it does, they can keep closing down various protests. It is again about the uncodified constitution. If you had a codified constitution that absolutely said you've got the right to protest, bish bash bosh, that's it. Yes, ultimately, of course, the Parliament is supreme, and Parliament can pass a law, but that doesn't... when you have a supreme parliament of whatever sort, when it's within the context of a codified constitution, there is a constraint upon what Parliament can do that is not about people. People can't constrain that Parliament. The Constitution constrains that Parliament. And course, the Parliament will have made that constitution. So in a way, it's constraining itself, so it's not a problem in terms of law. That might have got into quite arcane areas of jurisprudence there, but trust me.
I understand. My final question to you. Let's say you're live on TV right now.
Yeah.
You have a chance to speak to the nation, to Sir Keir Starmer and to Nigel Farage. What would you say to all three of them right now?
That's putting me on the spot, isn't it?
My apologies.
But okay, let me see. I would say, I'd keep it simple, and I would say, okay, a very narrow, marginal majority won a vote on this one matter. However, every poll done since, well, no, not every poll done, every poll done in the last 3 years suggests the country has changed its mind. The nature of democracy is not that you can hold people to a decision made at some point and they're just stuck with it. No parliament can be constrained by its predecessors. There comes a time where any decision made in a democracy, if it is a democracy, can be reviewed. This one has come very amply now, it's 10 years on. We can realistically say this needs review because no one is happy. You know, even the hardline Brexiters are sort of like going, well, this isn't the Brexit I asked for. The Brexit they asked for was any sort of fantasy, I don't know what. But the thing is that no one is happy with where we are. Therefore, why are we just sitting here wallowing around sort of like, we can't do anything, we're stuck with this? Why? We're not. We're not. If this is a democracy, and if executive power means anything, and if we're going to bother having elections at all, you can change things. That's the point. That's why you bother with all this nonsense.